Hello, welcome to A Brush with Art. I want to do some follow-up on a previous show that we did. I'm always disappointed when I run out of time and don't get to show you the details and get a project finished. But I did go ahead and finish the Southwestern jacket, and I wanted to show you some of the techniques to bring it out. This one doesn't show up real good on camera, so I'm going to show you on another one. This one shows up a little bit better. I took some stiff dry brushes, just sort of a stiff bristle. It's not real stiff, but stiffer than the soft sable. And you just dry brush white in it, or black, or some orange or silver, or whatever you want to give it some perspective and some depth. And these wear really well. They actually look better the more you wear them. They soften up and the color smooths out a lot. See if I can smooth that out a little bit. And then you can put feathers on them and embellish them in different ways. And just wanted to finish that up for you. And one more thing I want to finish up also is a previous project that we had. And that's the Hummingbird. Still don't have this one finished, but I want to show you a technique that really helps. These are all dry brushes. You don't need this many, but it just to show you the difference and the variety of them. You can see that's stiff. I have some bigger ones. I have all different sizes here, up down to a little one like that. And I want to show you how well they work at lifting paint out. Here we have the flower. Now let's bring some highlights in that flower. I'll dip it in water, blot the water out so it's just damp. Well, I'm going to need a little bit more water than that. Get that wet. Loosen up the paint. And when you see it loosening, take a dry paper towel and blot it. Isn't that a beautiful, soft highlight? And looks so natural. You can do the same thing to your leaves, and also you can go back and add more color. See, that just did a natural highlight right there. You could put some yellow in it when it dries. The same thing on the bird. That's how we're going to put light here. You don't want to get into the grain of the paper. You just want to very softly brush the top of it until the paint comes off. And to get these little feather highlights, I like to use an old typewriter brush, and I don't know if you can get them anymore. I have a big collection of them, so I can still use them. But just softly lighten that color with a rough eraser, or an eraser that has some roughness to it. And that also makes very nice highlines. You can do the same thing on your leaves and your flowers with an eraser. And now when I come back, I've got something else I want to share with you. Did you ever have a beautiful piece of wallpaper and you'd love to have a picture to match it? I'm going to show you how to paint a picture from wallpaper. Here's my pattern. And unfortunately, all I had left was some pieces. This is not matched here, but I taped it up just to get a little bit of how it looks. This is still on it. None of that makes any difference. Now, you can trace it right off here. If you just wanted the books, like I did, you can just skip all this and move your tracing paper over and repeat it over and over, or you can sketch it yourself if you want to. Now, this is the one I did. I didn't want it to be exactly the same. I wanted it to complement it, but not be the same thing, and I didn't want everything else in it. And I want to paint another one and show you how really quite simple it can be to do. Put this over here, and I've got one partially finished. This part right here is finished. This is the next to the last stage, and this is the first stages. And I want to show you how I got from here to here to here to here. Okay, we're going to use pretty much the same palette that I always use, and first of all, I've got my yellow ochre wash down. It's on all of this, and you don't see it from the eye, but it's there, and it comes out. Right here, I see a little bit of yellow ochre, and so I went on and did my wash first. And I'm just going to use random colors here to kind of go with the rest of these. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is wet this one right here. I don't know if that sketch is quite dark enough for you to see, but we'll see. Okay, and I think I'm going to go with this color of blue, which is ultramarine with some burnt sienna in it to almost give it a little black tint. And I like to keep my colors in the same position all the time because I can get to them easier and remember what the colors are easier if I don't have them in a different position every time. That's very close to what I wanted, so I'm going to go ahead and get my color on. And this paper is wonderful with the water and the paint. Okay, and just get that color in there. And you know, these books almost painted themselves. You see, I've already got a shadow here, I've got highlights, I've got, the color is not just filled in like a coloring book. I'm going to hold it down a little bit, let that water run down. I'm letting it run down here, but not past the paper. And as soon as that soaks up a little bit of the water, I want to come back with a smaller brush, and I want to get that blue quite a bit darker. But I want to keep the blue in it. And while it's nice and wet, I'm going to come over here, and my brush is a little too wet, so I want to get my paint thicker because I've already got so much water on the paper. And I'm just going to make a shadow here that's coming from this book. And kind of got that crooked, so I'm going to widen it there. Now, that's still not dark enough. I'm going to get that a little bit darker right up here where the books touch. And see how that shadow just makes itself. Straighten that up a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to do that to all the other books. I'm going to do one more for you. And this one, I've got two books laying down here. And I'm going to do one of them in a brown. So I want burnt sienna because I want it to be, I want it to have a little bit of orange in it. Maybe like a brown leather. It's a good color right there. I want to wet it first. And no, I think it's this bottom one I'm going to make brown because it's going to be too close to that color and this needs to be different. I have a little blue in my brush. It's not going to hurt it. It will probably just enhance it. Okay, now I've got my color and I'm going to do just like I did on the other one and just get some color in there and let that paint and paper work together. A little bit darker color here. And you don't want your colors all the same. You want this variation here that you see. And I'm gonna leave some highlight right here. Leave a little bit of paper showing. Love that. Okay, now I'm gonna pick up some blue. And right along here, I'm gonna make a shadow where it's laying down. And right here, give it some shape. Okay, that looks good like that. Now I'm going to go ahead and finish the others. And before I do that, though, I do want to finish the edge of my bookcase. So I'll just wet it just like I did the other. And get some burnt umber. And just mix a little blue in it, a little phthalo this time. But keep it brown because this is probably a wood bookshelf. And just too much blue there, so we're going to go back to brown. Just get some color in and let your blues and your browns mix on the paper. Okay, and I'm going to get this out right there. Okay, and this part of it seems to have more sienna, so I'm going to go ahead and put some sienna in here. So, well, you know, it might be a different color if light is coming from one direction, so it's not going to be a problem. Okay, now I'm going to finish these two books, that stage of these two books, and then come back and show you what we're going to do next. Okay, there we go. Okay, got these two books. You know, I was having a hard time deciding whether to do that one red or blue. Somehow it came out both. And I like that. Now I can straighten these up when I go back. I want to show you how to get these to this stage very quickly. I'm going to use one of my dry brushes, the stiff little brush, and do that dry brush technique, which is wet your brush. Just have to practice to see how much it needs wetting. And let's, on this one, let's make a little ridge on that piece of leather and blot it. And let's put one down here. You don't want to make your line straight across, because if you'll notice, books kind of, leather especially, bow out. So kind of give it a little bit of a curve. That one needed a little more. Okay. If you get too much, you can go back and put more color in it. You could add a different color. You could put a little bit of red in there. This one I've already done, but here's something else I want to do to it to make it look even better. I'm going to wet that little piece of engraved leather, or raised leather, I guess it is. And I'm going to get some little bit of sienna, burnt sienna, which is your lighter brown with a little bit of an orange look to it. Might add a little tiny bit of blue. I'm going to come along and just along the side where this part's dry and this part's not, I want to just enhance that a little bit and make it a little deeper. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. And just come across like that. And then, well, let me go ahead and do this and show you what the effect I want. Don't want to outline it. I just want it just a little bit there. That's the look I want. Let's see if we can get a close-up on it. That right there. This is wet down here. This is dry up here. You might can see it if I tilt the paper. This, I'm going to blot it off because it didn't do exactly what I wanted, and I can just do that over. Actually, even that doesn't look too bad. Now, I'm going to go on to the background, because I just do that with all these. I look at the different books and decide what I want to do. Let's look at the books a minute. This is where I do the dry brushing. I take my dry brush and very gently rub it here and blot it off. Here's what I was doing on that one, the one I just did. And then also, when I get done, I'll take some gold or copper acrylic paint and embellish it a little bit here, and maybe even put some writing on it. And I've got just a few minutes left. I want to show you how I'm doing the background. On this one, I did something I very rarely do. I used black. I like to mix my own black. But I left some texture of the paper in places and some different colors, and didn't make it a solid black. I had some lights and darks in it. And on this one, I don't want to use black. I'm going to take a wide flat brush. I'm going to get blue, and I'm going to mix a black with all my colors on the palette here. And just keep adding colors until you get the black you want. Different blues, reds, but you want it black. You don't want your background in this one to be red. If you've noticed, blacks have green in them, and blacks have a red in them, and yellow. You can see yellow in blacks. And as soon as I get that as dark as I want it, this needs to be wet so I can spread it. I don't want it to get on my books. I hope the books are dry enough to do this, but we'll find out. Okay. Now, as you see, it's darker over here, and I was letting it get lighter over on this side. And I'm just going to start here so I can brush it into this and blend that in. And this is how I'll do that. And let me see, let's get... And now when I come along here, I'm going to add a little bit of blue in here because it's getting a little red, which I like, but I don't want the whole thing red. And then I'll add a little brown up in here. And then I'll go back and pick up some more red. And I'll kind of look at the color of the book that I'm doing it around and either enhance it with a different color, or maybe I want to use the same color as that book. And right here, I've added some blue in here because that book is blue. And I just like to have random strokes, and then I'll just blend it right on into there. And one more thing that I want to show you, but I don't want to stop and leave this undone because this won't blend as well. Okay, now I can blend all that in and it won't show. And right here, I'll take a wet brush and just kind of blend that out. Smooth it out a little bit. And then I will just continue this down here under the ledge. And right here, I use some mask, something that you can paint onto your painting before it's started, and it will protect the paper from the paint. The paint won't paint on it. And this is the scarf I used and that I wanted to copy. And this, the way you take this off, you just rub it off after it's good and dry, and make sure it's good and dry, and it'll come off kind of like, it's just kind of gummy. And you see what a beautiful scarf that makes, and you can use that for all kinds of things. And I'll just go ahead and finish this off like I did the rest. And that's how simple it can be to paint from wallpaper. And when we come back, there's something else I want to share with you. I have here a treasured vase that belonged to my mother, and you can imagine my disappointment when I accidentally broke it. But I saved it. I didn't want to throw it out. I thought, I got to think of something to do with that. I also have some antique plates here. I collect antique plates, and I love my plates. And when I break one, it's so disappointing. There's 3 here, but I actually found 4 of these plates at an antique shop. I'd been looking for them for a long time. When I got out of the car, the bottom of the bag fell out and broke every one of them. Well, I hang on to those too. Here's another one that broke, and it's got 14 karat gold on it, so I saved that. And I've thought of some things to do to preserve my plates and the other things that I break that I treasure. And I want you to come out with me to what I call my stepping stone garden. Let me show you what I've been doing. I have a blue willow plate. I was able to preserve the whole plate on this stepping stone. This is an antique vase that I dropped and broke, and I added some iridescent little stones to it. Here I have a tile that I painted, and then some blue and yellow dishes that I used with it. And this is some yellow and blue dishes that I saved, and I added a little bit of blue to the concrete. This one is an antique plate that I had been looking for a long time. I found it in Chattanooga when I got home, and as I was getting out of the car, I dropped it and broke it, but I was able to preserve it. And here, this is an antique plate. It had 14 karat gold in it, and I wanted to preserve that. Added some stones with it. This is some Fiesta and some other dishes with it. This is one that didn't work. I sunk some shells down into the concrete. But But I have a little squirrel that's trying to dig them all out, and he's doing a pretty good job. Here's another antique plate that I broke the same day I broke the other one. Found it in Chattanooga, but I still have it. And once again, the blue willow. Well, I learned a lot on those stepping stones, and I'm still learning. Some of them are not holding up as good because the temperature outside wasn't as good as it should have been, but I had to try it anyway, and some of them are chipping off, but some of them are holding up much better, and I learn as I go along. I'm not going to make a stepping stone today, but I'm going to do something else. Here's what I made with the beautiful pot that belonged to my mother, the beautiful vase. I just glued it on. It's kind of rough and it's not perfect, but I love it. It's better than throwing it out, and I embedded some stones in it. And then I took some copper after I put the grout on. And I used concrete on the stepping stones, but this was some kind of grout. Here we go, right here, for tiling. And then I put some copper on it and let the white tile turn copper, and then wiped it all off with a damp sponge. Here is my Fiesta pot. I was a little bit concerned about the jagged edges, and I didn't know if that was acceptable or not. I got some books on tiling, and it said it adds to the character, so that's a good thing because mine have jagged edges. Here's the pot I'm going to do, and I'm going to do some more of the vase. And this is slightly rounded, so I kind of try to fit it around the curvature of this. And I'm going to, I like to use liquid nails because it sticks really, really good. And I just stick it on there. And as I go around, I'll find some real pretty pieces with color in them. I let it dry before I turn it over to do the back side. But I'm just going to go along and glue these on with liquid nails in a pretty color. And I'm going to have to hold that just for a second. And I've got these beautiful stones here that I'm going to put all the way around the top on this one. And after this dries real good, I will come along and I'll space them out and put these on. They're the colors that are in the pot, in the vase. Iridescent blue, iridescent pink, and iridescent yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and glue some more of these on, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I am not going to do a stepping stone as I told you. I'm going to do this pot instead, and I'm just now getting the grout in. I got most of this glued on. I didn't finish it, but I will later. And just putting the grout on. The grout comes ready mixed. You just follow the directions. And really all you want to do is just get it in these crevices here. And you can just wipe it right over the pottery or whatever you've got glued on your pot. Just get it in there real good. And then I like to take something and kind of scrape it off just a little bit, because then scrape it off the top but not down in the crevices there. You want that to stay filled. And then you take a wet sponge. You let it set a little bit. Here, this has set some. And then you start wiping it off. And you want to leave it in there, but just get it off the top. Get it off your stones or your ceramics. Your tiles. Okay. And you just do the whole pot like that. And as it dries, you just keep wiping it with a damp sponge. And it will come out looking like one of these. And I'm going to do some more stepping stones and practice some more. Some of them are not holding up as good because I didn't follow the directions, or I was in too big a hurry. You want to watch the weather if you're working with concrete. You don't want to use it when it's too cold outside or when it's wet outside. But just experiment and see what you can do with broken dishes and things. There's all kinds of things on the market to use with them. There's these beautiful little marble-like glass things. Here's some beautiful blue tiles. And there's just all kinds of things. There's so many, it's just hard to know what to choose. Now, I want to talk to you about some upcoming shows. I have another book show I want to do of books using only 2 colors, or maybe 3 colors at the most. And I'm real anxious to do this one. This is going to be an interesting one. And then a while back, I showed you a graphic that I wanted to do on the show and show you how you can turn this into something that's fairly easy to paint using, again, only 3 colors. And here's the finished one. And we're going to do this on the show, and I'm going to show you how you can do it using just burnt sienna, alizarin crimson, and phthalo blue. And that's all I have for today. Thanks for watching, and I hope you'll try a brush with art. And I'm going to finish this up.